Good day, beautiful people. You know, whenever I jump on the screen, we're going to have a good time. And we are doing our lovely, wonderful, exciting series that is really featuring a lot of the BIPOC women that will be at our She Podcast Summit. I'm so happy with Give It to the People to be able to interview some of these awesome women. So, who am I? I'm Chisa Penix Brown, and I'm the Chief Curator at Give It to the People. We are a mental wealth company that is really focused on getting your mind right and your money right. I have this dope podcast. One's Give It to the People, but my favorite one is actually called Real Ass Affirmations, where I tell you the shit you need to say to get you through your day. And so if you haven't heard that yet, then please go ahead and tune in. And so I'm not even going to talk too long because I want to bring on our guest today because we are in different coasts. And so she's up super early in the morning. And I'm excited to speak to the wonderful Rachel Luna. Hey, Rachel.
Hey, listen, I was vibing with the music. I said, oh, I've got my down hoodie today ready. Good to see you. Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome, and I'm just happy to have you. So one of the things I love is whenever you get to go to conferences, you know, you see all these wonderful people that are speaking. And I told Jess, I said, listen, I would love to see if, you know, I mean, kind of for selfish reasons, but also for reasons, the most selfish thing is I wanted to meet people before we got to the conference. So that was the really selfish reason. And then I said, well, I would love to interview some of these women because then this way, you know, that'll give me content, it gives them content. But I feel like we would have more of that kind of like family kind of thing if we knew each other beforehand, because you cannot make it to everybody's session as much as you want to, but it's 100 speakers and you are one of them. Okay. And so I just want you to tell them about Rachel Luna. I want you guys to see what she has in the background. She's given us this real MSNBC / New York bestseller kind of vibe going on right here. So I totally love it. So tell them about you, Rachel.
Well, first of all, Chisa, I loved your intro. I said, man, that elevator speech is on it. I'm a certified master neuroscience coach. I am the author of the book, Permission to Offend, The Compassionate Guide for Living Unfiltered and Unafraid. I am a #1 best-selling author and certified master neuroscience coach. But at the end of the day, like I am here to help people heal. And I like to say, I set you free from the prison in your mind. And my podcast is called Permission to Offend.
Yes. And Rachel, that's just so much just in like a little snippet. So you guys know this is going to be a great interview. So I want to know, because when you came up with this, I know, first of all, when we talk about neuroscience, I want you to just explain a little bit of that about that for anybody who doesn't understand what neuroscience is and what you do in that realm, and then jump into the rest of it.
So neuroscience is really just the study of the brain. And for me, in the certification that I went through, it was all about, you know, why do we do the things that we do, and what's happening in our brain when we make a decision or don't make a decision, when we're in action or when we're in full throttle action. You know, what causes motivation? What needs to happen? Why is it that some people can go and crush their goals and other people are stalling? So my approach is science-based. I take the science from the neuro. I am assessing what's happening to my client and paying attention to what their intrinsic and extrinsic motivational factors are. And then I also combine that with the life coaching, the mindset aspect, because it works in tandem. And I think one of the big mistakes that people make is taking a very singular focus to anything in life, right? But it's interesting, Chisa, because I remember a decade ago when I was hearing people talk about holistic, I would roll my eyes like, here we go again. You know, these hippies, no shade to the hippies, listen. But at that time, I'm a native New Yorker. I'm Puerto Rican. Oh, my puppy wants to get in the convo. Sorry. I'm a native New Yorker, Puerto Rican. We were raised like, you don't talk about your emotions. You don't talk about money. If it's an uncomfortable conversation, we're not having it. You just sweep it under the rug and you never, ever bring it up, right?
Yes.
But when we take this holistic approach, when we actually allow ourselves the opportunity to have an intimate relationship with ourselves, that requires you to know what's happening on the emotional plane, on the conscious level, the unconscious level, and also the physiological aspects. So, for example, did you know that rejection, that sensation of rejection, is stored in the same neural pathways that process physical pain. So
Oh.
when you get verbally rejected, when someone says no thank you, your brain processes it as you've just been punched in the stomach, physical pain. That's why rejection hurts so much. So if you know this, when you get rejected, when you go to make the sale, when you go to make the pitch, when you go to profess your love to someone and the rejection occurs, you feel that sensation. If you know this, then you can consciously walk yourself through the emotion and say, okay, I'm feeling this sensation in my body. It's not that I'm being attacked. It's just a sensation. Then one of the things that I go into it in depth in my book, Permission to Offend, is let's examine what's actually happening. What did you think? What did you tell yourself? What was the story that you told yourself? And what are the facts of the situation? Not truth, fact, because truth is subjective. Facts cannot be argued against. So that's my approach. I wish that I could put it more succinctly, but it's really funny because I talk to a lot of like doctoral neuroscientists. I've made it as succinct as possible. You get into a conversation with them, forget it. We're going off on a tangent. Now we're going to talk about all the wires and how they fire. But why I was so interested in this is because I come from a history of depression, substance abuse, a lot of trauma. Both of my biological parents had AIDS. They, passed away when I was young. And I couldn't understand why people who were not even as bright as me, they weren't as great of a coach as I was. They didn't but they were making strides and I wasn't. And it was because my nervous system was shutting down and theirs wasn't. And I had to understand what was happening in my brain, what hormones and chemicals were being released, and how could I integrate that so that I could recognize, oh, this is happening. This is why it's not real. One more thing I'll say is that the brain doesn't know the difference between the truth, a lie, or a memory. Which is why if you think of a sad occasion in your life, you will start crying. You feel that pain as if it's just happening all over again because the brain is just a processing system. So you get to tell your brain, relax. This is not happening in real time. This is just the memory. I'm safe. I'm not in that space. I'm healed.
Yeah, no, I really I enjoy listening to what you said and how it's viewed, because I think oftentimes and especially just going through some therapeutic things myself and just kind of understanding, I always say I'm a head person first and then a heart person second, because I like to be logical. And so, one of the things, this is just a quick story. So me and my husband years ago, like I see people that fight, right? And, argue and stuff. And so when you talk about background, I was like, I never want to be like that. So my thing was, okay, well, what can we do to combat that? And so we both like Star Wars and stuff like that, right? So he always called me a Sith. Now, if you don't know about Star Wars, then you don't know that. But the bad guys are the Siths, right? So I'm the Sith. But this is the thing about the Sith. The Sith always said either it is or it isn't. There's no in between, right? And so I think like that. And so when I'm talking about logical, logically, did you do it? Did you not do it? Right? Like it's no, I kind of did it a little bit. And so I always think like that. And that's why I'm just like, sometimes people that are so heart driven, a lot of times that logic doesn't set in for them. And so they're going by what they feel, which is not necessarily what's really happening. It's like you feel a certain way, which then is guiding your decision. So the way that you said that, I appreciate that, because I think that a lot of times people are so emotional that they're not really paying attention to the facts of what's really happening. And I love the way that you put that. So I want to know with this book, because people definitely need to get this book. I'm going to have it. Okay. Oh, actually, hold up. Are you going to have copies with you?
Of course I will. Of course
I'm just going to wait, girl. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just wait so I can get my signed copy when I get there in June. Okay. Look, I was like, should I get it first? I don't know.
Start reading it, bring it, and I'll sign it.
Yeah. I was like, maybe I should get it first. Then this way I could read in between. Yes. Okay. I'll get it first. And then I'll
copies for all the hundreds of people that are coming. Like, girls packing light, but I'll bring yes.
Yes, that's right. Okay. So I will get my copy first and then I'll have you sign it when you get there. But first of all, the title, Give Yourself Permission to Offend, right? Like, what does that mean to you? And what made you say, okay, this is what I'm going to name the book? And I love it because I have no problem offending people. You know, like if the occasion were to arise, I'm
Oh,
like, let's offend, right? I'm going to choose violence. So, you know,
okay. Well, no, not what we're talking about. In fact, you know, when in the I will say this: when you buy the book, read the introduction. I hate introductions. I think that they're a waste of time. So I wrote one worth reading,
okay.
and it will pull you right in. The on top of that, one of the things I am really careful to say at the very beginning is that this book is not a weapon. And
Okay.
none of the materials in here are meant to be weaponized. So we
Okay.
are not about inciting violence, hate, discontent, strife,
Okay.
none of that. But when I say give yourself permission to offend, I am saying that there are people who are going to judge you and be offended by your existence. I
Oh.
my step monster, right? Growing up, my dad got remarried, and that woman hated me just because I existed, because she was jealous of my mother, right?
Mhm.
And so I was a reflection of my mother. I did nothing wrong, but I existed, and she had a lot of opinions and judgments, and she rejected me constantly throughout my life.
Mhm.
So, if that's the case, if we're already being judged, if some people are naturally going to reject us, and by the way, do you know that people will judge you even if you do exactly what they asked you to do?
Yes, I
Okay,
do.
give you an example. My husband and I, he's a very traditional Mexican man. I'm a
Mhm.
very modern Puerto Rican woman. So right away, I don't know what we were thinking in coming together, but you know, love keeps us together.
Uh-huh.
He says, you know, roles, responsibilities. He says he takes out the trash, he does the car stuff. I said, great, I'll do the cooking, cleaning, whatever. Well, one day he didn't take out the trash. And I was like, look, I got to get this trash out of here. I put the trash bag in the can. He
Mhm.
comes out, he goes, why do you do this? I said, what? Put a
Mhm.
trash can liner in the can? Because you didn't. He goes, no, look how you did it. I said, what's wrong with the way? I mean, this man gave me a full class on how to put the liner in the trash can. Okay.
Uh-huh.
I did what needed to be done
Mhm.
because he was busy and it still wasn't good enough. It still didn't measure up. So
Mhm.
guess how I put the trash bag in the can?
I bet you didn't put it
I want to. No.
in.
No, because here's the thing. Why your response was, I bet you never did it again, right? You don't ever do it. And that doesn't hurt him. That hurts me because now I have to live with an overflowing garbage can for,
Mhm.
for the sake of making a point. I mean, sometimes a mother does have to go on strike, but I'm done making points. Like you either
Uh-huh.
on board with my way or you stop talking about my way,
Yeah.
or you leave, or you
Yeah.
make change, or you start pitching in. You become
Uh-huh.
part of the solution instead of reminding me of the problem.
I love it.
So, what this is the other thing that I say is that when you give yourself permission to offend, you are speaking up, you're taking a position for or against your values, your beliefs, your ideas, your ideologies without condemning or attacking someone else for their beliefs. And I think
Mm.
that that is the critical component
Mm.
because we live in a society, not just in the United States, but really in the world, where we have a lot of ideologies that they're not new, but we never talked about these things before, right? Like
Mhm.
we never talked about race the way that we talk about it now.
Yeah.
We never talked about gender identity issues the way that we talk about it now. It's just all these things that were never spoken about. And I believe that the only way we're going to be able to come together in community is if I will listen to understand you and you listen to understand me instead of listening to argue to be right.
Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
available to be wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you find, and this was not a question I was going to ask you, but do you find that it is difficult for people to admit that they're wrong? And I'm
Mhm.
telling you this from a person who I didn't used to like to apologize. But
Mhm.
to me now, I realize that there is more power in apologizing and admitting that I was wrong because I was wrong. You know what I mean? Like it's so for me, it was just like, oh, I don't want to apologize. I'm just not gonna apologize. We'll
Mhm.
just go to the grave with this. And now I'm just like, listen, I made a mistake. And so when I recognize that I made a mistake, I try to, correct that as soon as possible. And and apologize for whatever it is. It's a situation. But what do you think is there some neuroscience reason as to why people just they don't
Mhm.
want to?
Yeah, well, nobody wants to be wrong because number one, the ego. The
Mhm,
ego's job is to protect us. And so it's a good thing to have ego. Ego will drive you to achieve things that you never really thought were possible. Ego will keep you alive because you're that survival of the fittest. But
mhm,
then every strength at some point in life will become a liability. And you
mm,
have to know how to manage your strengths.
mhm,
Because, for example, I know that I'm a great coach. That is a strength. But if I only rest on that idea that I'm a good coach and I never get continuing classes, if I never keep studying, if I never pay attention to new advances in psychology and in
mhm,
science, then this idea that I'm such a great coach now becomes a liability because it stunted my growth.
mm.
Me
Okay.
stagnant. Okay. So when this idea of like admitting that you're wrong, it's what you're thinking. What is the thought? Well, if I'm wrong, then they're right. And I don't agree with their position.
Mm,
If I'm wrong, then they're going to cut me off. Then I lose credibility. Then they're not going to see me as the authority. Then I'm going to lose my position. So sometimes these thoughts are not even conscious, they're unconscious, they're beliefs that have been programmed. And so this is why I'm such a big proponent for journaling,
yeah.
is we really get to go in and say, like, okay, I don't even want to admit that I'm wrong about this, but what if I am? What
Yes.
does that mean?
Mhm.
And then you get to start thinking about what you might be thinking it means. Well, if I'm wrong, then that means that my religious foundation is wrong, right?
Mhm,
Think about this. There are some beliefs that I'm a Christian woman,
mhm,
and there are some ideas where I'm like, but the Bible says this. Well, this thing that I've been taught to believe my whole life says
mhm,
this, but society is saying that, and I I don't know which is right or wrong. So now,
mhm.
if you go into your journal and you just give yourself the opportunity, just get curious because curiosity will lead to your clarity. And by the way, what if no one is 100% right in 100% of the circumstances?
Yeah, that I believe that totally. I mean, I think there are so many contradictions in um and I'm not even necessarily talking about religion, even though
Yeah.
religion is a major contradiction. Um, because let me just give you an example that's not based on religion.
Okay,
Why
cool.
are there three credit bureaus? Like if everybody is underneath credit, it would be logical that there would be only one credit bureau. You would get all of your stuff together. You would have one financial picture. But not
Mhm,
only are there three credit bureaus, there are different type of credit reports
mhm,
depending on the industry, right? And so I
mhm.
want to give that for an example because then this way, people have a feeling about religion,
Well, yeah, I get it.
right?
But okay,
Why?
Chisa, I'm just gonna say one thing,
Mhm.
and then we'll go back to the credit thing, right?
Yes.
Because I do believe that I am an instigator of feelings,
Okay.
right? Because
Yes.
you say, well, people have feelings. We should have feelings,
Uh-huh.
and we should feel safe to express our feelings and open up to the just to listen. My
Mhm.
truth does not make you a liar. Your
Mhm.
truth doesn't make me a liar. We
Mhm.
just believe two different things. Can we, for the sake of community and connection, can we keep having loving, gentle conversations where we can find a tie that binds? And if we can't find one, then we go to our separate corners and say, okay, well, we got work to do. Can't rock with you right now, but be
Yeah.
blessed. And I'll come back maybe in 4 or 5 years and see if either one of us has changed. So that's just
Yeah.
the side. But going back to the credit bureau, I could answer your question logically. Well,
Uh-huh.
we don't have just one credit bureau because then that would be a monopoly on a private industry.
Mhm.
You have to create fair competition.
But somebody came up with the idea and the competition and the monopoly. You see what I'm saying? Like, so I guess you see them. So I mean, it's not and this is where it's like, it's not necessarily a wrong or a right answer. But when you really think about it, I understand business and I understand industry because that's what I do every day.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about this, like, and this is the reason why I look at it. 3 is my favorite number, God number, my number. It's just always rules my life with 3. If you're going to get an accurate numerical value, the average, you need 3, right? Like, it's not just 2 in order for you to get a good average to see what's really happening with things.
Mm-hmm.
So having 3 credit bureaus that report to different people that report different things means that you may not be able to get to something as fast. So it's just kind of one of those things where you think about, it's so many things in history, right? That we can say, well, why is this not that way? Well, why is this? And then you see how things now, just like you said, like the things that we're talking about are proven that this was a good thing, but because somebody else felt like they wanted to make money with it, then now it's not a good thing, right? Or like, even when we talk about religion, because I definitely want, you to talk about just activating your faith, what we should do with that. What is your thoughts on that? But somebody said these books of the Bible are what's going to go in the Bible, and this is going to be the Bible. Somebody said, okay, well, this is what the Quran is going to be. Somebody said, okay, well, women shouldn't read the Talmud. Like, so it's kind of like somebody, has always been at the top, and it's not just one somebody, right? It's a whole bunch of somebody to determine that. And even when we talk about our gender roles, like, I feel like me and you could talk forever because you have like sparked me.
Let's go in. Come on, let's get the coffee. Let's keep this conversation going. But go ahead, finish the thought, because I'm here.
Like, somebody has decided this. Somebody put these societal norms together. We're here left to say, what can we do to be the best for us, for our family today? And what is that like to you? Because I think that faith doesn't necessarily just have to be tied to religion, even though I feel like it is for me. But what does that mean for you when you're talking about activating your faith to help other people?
Yes. So I refer, especially in the book, I refer to personal faith, not your faith in a deity, because again, how can we take this work and make it universal without me imposing or projecting my beliefs, my lens, and my opinion, right? At some point or another, we are always influencing each other. You're influencing me, I'm influencing you. So let's just accept that that's happening. When I talk about activating your personal faith, this is where I go back again to in chapter 2, we talk about identity. And again, this is not the typical identity where like social and gender and all of that. I'm talking about, what do you value and what do you believe? Those 2 things that no one can take away from you. Because if we look at any kind of other identity, like for example, I'm a mother. My identity as a mother has a limited utility. What do I mean by that? As long as they live in my house, yes, they need me. They need me to pay the rent. They need me to put food on the table, right? When my children leave, will they still need their mother? Sure, maybe. But will they need me the way that they've needed me when they were my babies and I was feeding them off of my body? No.
Yeah.
That is a role and a responsibility that has an expiration date. My values and my beliefs do not have expiration dates. I get to choose them. I get to update them and refine them, but that is something that no one will ever be able to strip you of. If you think about the way that society looks at gender, someone could very well say like, no, we're not going to play that game anymore. So you're this, you're that, like you said, the governing body.
Yeah.
Even religious freedoms. How do we even have this country in America? Because they were fighting for religious freedoms. That identity of their religious identity was being stripped from them. So activating your personal faith is connecting to, what do you believe and what do you value? And what does it look like for you to live out loud fully in those beliefs and in those values? Now, most people, and particularly parents, will say, I value my family. I say, great, show me your calendar. And when I look at their calendar, what's scheduled? Every hair appointment, every friendship date, every business meeting, podcast, nothing for the children, nothing for the family. And it's here's why. Because we have this idea of, well, that's a given. So I don't need to schedule it. I don't need to block off time. That's a given. But then life happens. And for those of us that have ever been in the grind of building our business, and
Mhm.
we're breaking the midnight oil, we're staying up past late, and we're saying to our kids, 5 more minutes, 5 more minutes. We're not valuing our family. We're valuing everything but the family. And then your kid does to you like my baby did to me when she was just 3 years old. She grabbed my face, two little hands, grabbed me. She said, Mama, close it, the laptop. Because she couldn't even speak. She didn't have full range of vocabulary. She was 3 years old. Mama,
Mhm.
close it, the laptop. So
Wow.
time tells where your values dwell. If you
Hmm.
want to know what you've been truly valuing, not what you say you value, but how the values that you've been embodying, go look at your calendar, go take stock of what you've done this
Hmm.
last week. That will paint a sobering picture for you.
I could not agree with you more. Like you don't even understand. I was very excited for this, but that everything that you just said, that last little snippet, that was life. And the reason I think so is because I do agree completely. So like when you said it, I was like, what do you mean you don't put it? I put in time for that. Like I specifically, so I'm listening to you like I used to be in that same way. And then I started to understand where I needed to make changes, but it was also because it was brought to my attention,
Mhm.
and so when it was brought to my attention, then I had to say, this is what I really want. This is who I want to be. This is how I want to spend my time. But that also meant, and so if you see in the back, so when I wrote my book, The 90-Day Focus, look, I'm just like,
Yeah,
right?
pull it all the way out. Let me see it.
The whole thing is, my thing was that the whole point of it was, oh, hold up, where am I at? The whole
Get
point of it was you have to say, okay, in certain times, this is what's important now.
it.
And I had this gentleman almost identical. He was like, I want to do this with the family. I quit this such and such job that was making so much money. I'm doing this business. The business is doing well now. And he's like, and I want to do blase, blase. And I told him, I said, but in order for you to get there, you want a certain amount of money and you want this business to do what that job did, and it's not doing it yet. And so therefore you have to realize it's always a sacrifice. So like one of the quotes that I have in the book is, you have to give something to get something. If I want that thing, I got to give up something so that I can have it. And I love that. Like, you don't even know. Okay, I'm going on Amazon. Let me go ahead and get this book real quick. Let me get this Rachel Luna book real quick so I can get this and get it here to the house so I can work on it before we get there. So, all right, as we start to wrap up, if people said, listen, I
Mhm.
love this today, why should I come to your session at She Podcast? Give me a reason why people should come to your session specifically.
Well, listen, not to down anybody's session, because I think every session is going to be fantastic and amazing. You should come to my session if, first of all, ask yourself this question.
Mhm.
Have I gotten strategy before but haven't implemented it? Thank you. Because if you've already gotten strategy before and you haven't implemented, you're going to go to another, how to grow your followers, how to, get more of this, get more of that, how to get sponsors or whatever. But
Yeah.
if you haven't worked through the internal things that we're going to work through in my session, it doesn't matter how much strategy you get. You're going to leave there and you're not going to implement anything. You're going to leave feeling really good, because what happens when we go to these live events is our brain releases dopamine like, oh, crazy. We're going to get a lot of serotonin. All of the feel goods are going to happen. Your brain is actually thinking that every time you sit in one of these strategic events, your brain is thinking, oh, we've done that. And so, yeah, your brain, remember, the brain doesn't know the difference between the truth, a lie, or a memory. It
Mhm.
does not recognize that you are not the one putting out the pitches to the podcast, sponsors. Your brain is like, oh, so that's how you do it. Great, done,
Mhm.
did it. You're gonna leave feeling that you did something. You
Yeah.
didn't do anything. All
Yeah.
you did was consume. And what
Yes.
I'm going to help you do in my session is take what you've consumed and embody it so that you can actually go out and execute. So we'll
Oh.
work on the brain things to help make sure that you have the confidence and the self-awareness and the belief to actually implement. Because
Mhm.
that's why people don't implement. It's because they don't have the legitimate belief
Mhm.
And here's like the brain is so tricky, Chisa. I wish I could explain it to you, because someone will listen to this and be like, no, but I do believe. And then
Mhm.
I'll say, okay, well, show me what you did. Well, this came up, that came up. And procrastination is actually a symptom of fear.
Mhm.
Laziness and exhaustion, those are masks of fear and avoidance, because your nervous system is not equipped to do the thing that you want to do, because there's an energetic ceiling, a
Mhm.
point of resistance and a point of resentment. So I want to show you how to work within that so that you can take more action. And I'm
Mhm.
also going to teach you what you need to do so that you can stay more productive with more
Yes.
energy and more capacity. So there's like brainy things that you need to know that are stopping you from actually freaking doing the things and doing them
Yep.
consistently.
Okay, sold everybody. I don't know if if you were debating, if you're trying to get your schedule together, but I could not agree with you more. And I definitely think that, one of those things that when they say, motivation is there, but it's not gonna last, right? Just like a shower, like you need to keep doing it, right? And so I definitely see why people need it. So I think that I could see immediately why somebody needs to choose this session, especially if they are doubting themselves or they don't think that they can do it. Just being able to understand a little bit better. And also, guys, get the book before you get there. So,
Yeah.
Rachel, I want to thank you so much. You don't even understand how I'm totally in sync. And I just can't even wait to tell my husband about this book. Go ahead and order it and get it here and start reading it, because I definitely, I'm ready to learn some more stuff. And
Yeah.
one of the things is just always seeing why something is a certain way. And I feel like I'm going to get a lot of those answers with this book. So I'm excited to read it. So everybody, if you're watching this on the replay, feel free. You can still leave comments. You can still go ahead and get tickets. And on the replay, you will see all of Rachel's information and how to contact her. So please go ahead and do that. And then join us in June at She Podcast. And Rachel, again, thank you so much for being on. I appreciate this so much today.
Thank you so much. And I just want to make sure you understand, it's not that I'm not going to give you just the why, I'm going to give you the how.
Oh, I
And
want
that,
all of it.
yeah,
Yes.
that's the
Yes.
important thing. Don't just tell me why, tell me how, damn it.
Oh no,
Okay, thanks for having me. I'm so grateful. See you
yes,
all
yes,
soon.
yes. All right. So everybody else, make sure you always show up and show out and continue to give it to the people. Bye.